And that brings us to our 5th match of the day. It's not our final match because this is Sunday and we got 6 matches coming up, but we are rolling now into Kolento taking on SIlverName in this battle. And SIlverName has greatly deviated from the mark that we came to expect from him, which was very aggressive play with like Mech Hunter and Token Druid. Those were 2 of the decks I think he's brought the most. Even separately, not even combined. It's just like he kept bringing them over and over. And this week he swapped over to Bomb Warrior. When we're looking at on paper here. So Kolento's going to have to take him on with the old Tempo Rogue with Vendetta package in there. You can see it, and he talked in his interview yesterday about the 1 Eviscerate. He's not quite sure if this is right. He's not quite sure if it's wrong. That's just, you know what, it'll do for now. But I love the way this is built. I think you do want the burst damage, and I think 2 Eviscerates is too many. It offers too many dead draws.
Yeah, I think those kind of, I'm not quite sure scenarios are often scenarios where you do end up with a 1-of in your deck. Not necessarily sure if that's the right way of looking at it, but I think one of the most interesting things to look at here is in that tertiary deck, which I think he will be swapping towards. Coppertail Imposter has kind of approached the point where we can call it a standard anti-warrior tertiary now. But Kolento is adding an extra twist on top of that mech and stealth package with Mojo Master Zihi coming into play as well to try and snatch away some tempo and some late game options and some Omega Devastators from a warrior opponent.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. I was just going to go to Omega Devastator right after that, where what's the best way to follow that up when you're late game scenario where you want to pressure, take away their big removal spell that also punches your thing to death. And so for SIlverName, that's really what he's looking out for in this one. Does have some natural weapon removal in the deck with Weapons Project and Harrison Jones. And for Kolento, he does not remove the Waggle. He removes 1 Waggle pick in that secondary strategy. He still has access to some. So for SIlverName here, I think he's got a bit of work cut out for him, because I still remain on the side that I think Rogue has game in this matchup. I think it boils down specifically to some, generation cards. But I think when you have those, it's so much different than if you just have a normal aggressive draw.
To clarify, Kolento removes 0 Waggle picks from his anti-warrior strategy. You looked at his secondary, which is his anti-mage strategy. He keeps both Waggle picks in his anti-warrior build.
Excuse me.
Yep.
I'm wrong on that. He also takes out 2 SI7 agents. So think to that point I just made where you want the card generation minions. SI7 agent's not card generation.
Nope.
I like that.
Definitely a card that I have struggled to use effectively in the matchup. It has its moment, but its moment is very often like Spirit of the Shark pushing for lethal towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
When you have an Eviscerate in your deck, you can afford to lose a little bit of that damage sometimes.
Kick things off with a Town Crier and a Snip Snap. Snip Snap. I think it's 2 of the better ones to have in this matchup as they help you fight for more very aggressively and turning a rogue.
Double 1s against the Rogue. It's a huge win for SIlverName.
What does it mean?
Kolento, quick pass.
Double Dynamatic! His hand is insane!
I love how much you love Bomb Warrior.
It's just so cool! Why do people dislike it?
Like, I personally dislike Bomb Warrior.
Why?
But
Tell me why.
But I like people liking things. That just makes me happy.
Same. Why do you dislike it? That's why I want everyone to like it, I guess, is because I really like when people like things. But go ahead, explain why you dislike it.
I think it's a combination of 2 things which don't particularly tickle my fancy, and that's kind of a fairly generic curve deck, which, it just plays minions on curve and tries to be aggressive with them. And then you combine that with kind of the lottery element of bomb draws, which can be good or bad for either opponent at any given time. I think the combination of those 2 things just puts me in a very sour place towards it. And then on top of that, playing against Dr. Boom Mad Genius is just not a good feeling at any point in the game.
Okay, well, look, let's take out the Dr. Boom Mad Genius part. Do you like the deck now? Well, just hypothetically speaking.
Like, if you took away the music, I might like Nickelback. That doesn't really make your
point. That is way
point.
unfair of a comparison because Bomb Warrior's a good deck. Okay, that is...
All right, good point.
That is not even apples to oranges. That's like apples to trash cans, okay? Apples are great. I guess trash cans are pretty cool, too, because they, help get rid of trash. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, SIlverName off to about the best possible start. Double 1s, magnetic Snip Snap. Kolento already having to fight from behind this game. with his primary deck, which is not massively equipped to do so. I think, honestly, sometimes you get into this weird period where when the rogues switch to their tertiary or whichever deck it is that is anti-warrior, they're actually in a position where it becomes a little bit harder for them to catch up if they get behind, because they have some of these clunky draws that they can pick up that like makes it harder for them to seize tempo when they fall behind. The primary deck, being the most like clean and streamlined, is perhaps the best equipped at being able to fight back from this position, because, for example, there are 2 SI7 agents in there, which would actually be quite beneficial in against these kind of board states.
Other thing to note, though, is that you remove stuff like Life Drinker and Sap and Eviscerate,
yeah.
So your cards on average are also more valuable. That's one of the reasons why I like the Rogue deck in the game plan, is you're taking out cards that offer little potential, and you're adding in cards that constantly go towards that direction where you're like, get things in play and start hitting my opponent with them. It is harder to catch up. I don't necessarily think that not catching up super effectively is a major concern. I think you should expect to get ahead. I think that you should expect to be able to stay ahead. And I think that when you're behind, you're not behind enough to have like a panic button hit, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
It's when the Dynomatics start hitting in combination, that's where you start getting scared. And that, to me, was your brilliant explanation the other day of the Coppertail Imposter sticking to board, is it's not vulnerable to that.
Right.
And so you don't get that snowball effect.
Right.
Choose soon.
Well, there is a big Edwin in SIlverName's future. Kolento right now will just be going through the various engineering scenarios of how do I make this Edwin Van Cleef big enough and take enough off the board that Dynomatics does not become a possible answer, and I think he has done that very nicely indeed. Also, not enough armor generated just yet to make armor up Shield Slam even an option. That would be 7 from the Shield Slam, 2 from the 1/1s that are in play. So Kolento managed to cover all of his bases that turn. It just so happens there is a shield block in hand, so if the Shield Slam was there, then the job would get done. But as of right now, nothing doing for SIlverName in terms of being able to answer this Edwin.
Yeah, you're going to take 10.
Yeah. I like throwing out the Dynomatic here because that gives SIlverName options next turn for secondary Dynomatic or Militia Commander to come and deal that extra damage on the Edwin. But I think you put it quite succinctly. You're going to take 10.
Yeah. Kind of looking at Eviscerate Evil Miscreant.
So many options.
In that order?
Yes. I want the lackeys much more than I want this 3/4 to die.
Oh, up to no good? Me too.
This says from Kolento that he needs this Edwin to keep attacking.
Yeah, I find this strange. I don't know how much of this is caster vision, but for me, when my opponent just Dynomatics my 10 health minion for 5, I kind of feel like they have a way to kill it on the next turn. And I guess generating the Miscreant here and eviscerating the 3/4 plays around the world where that answer was the second Dynomatic. It doesn't play around the Militia Commander, but it is a big loss to give up the 2 lackeys that come out of that Miscreant.
Yeah, it also is some nod to the fact that if he plays Hench Clan Burglar in that spot, it's just a trade straight up, and Dynomatic is just punishing. Like, all the Dynomatic iterations are punishing. And I think perhaps that's what he's attempting to avoid in that spot. I don't think that he's, like, happy to play Evil Miscreant and Eviscerate here.
He made the only play that left him in an on-average good position against second Dynomatic. That was the only play he could make that did that. He just wasn't... I mean, he may have accounted for Militia Commander, he just chose to ignore it as a possibility.
Ugh. These are awful. I feel like Boomzooka has showed up in about 70% of Hench Clan Burglars over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, that sounds right. There's no way that's exaggerated.
Well, did you watch any of Americas or Asia Pacific?
I watched some of Americas last night and one series of Asia Pacific.
I just felt like I kept seeing it over and over again. You know, that's how your head's bias works. You remember the one thing and latch onto it.
Yep.
I digress. I'll stick to my 70%.
Sure. Yeah, Unsleeping Soul does seem to end up being the best thing there. Like, you know, ignoring the silence part of it, 4 mana, get another minion is probably the best thing that he can do right now with those options he was presented.
such a difference the one drops make to this matchup as well. On SIlverName's side, it just gives him so much more to work with.
Yeah.
Where you have extra health, you've made extra headway on board. You know, you want to put it into a top deck war, the warrior definitely is winning that one.
Right.
Your cards on average are just so much more powerful. It just takes more time to use them.
Well, Leroy Wagglepick, Life Drinker, and now the Unsleeping Soul, which is not going to work how you want it to with the Leroy Jenkins, right? Because you can attack with the first Leroy first, then silence and summon, but the second one will be a silenced copy and therefore won't have charge. That sounds right to me.
Ah.
Look, he's deciding he wants his Miscreant back. This plays around the Harrison Jones and the Weapons Project outcomes from the opponent.
Oh.
That's a pretty big whiff.
Bootleg Shadow Step.
Defend the gates.
Yeah, SIlverName's starting to run away with this one too. Yep. Kolento's just been exhausted. His lackeys are going to provide very little.
Yep. And he has too much effective health to be worried about any kind of burst scenario being set up for Kolento, and he has too much stuff on board to really be worried about a swing coming back in terms of tempo.
You're really just not worried.
He's just chilling. And he looks like it too.
By the way, there's the fourth 1-mana minion showed up, which is contesting the lackeys quite well.
You know, stop me.
If only we had a goblin lackey. I am actually not convinced that 6 provides you more than 3/6 on average.
6 provides you more than 3.
Like a 6 drop?
Average. I would probably take that bet, but again, I don't have the full stat average numbers done for stat costs, mana costs these days. But I think I'd take the over.
Also to account for future 3 cost draws. Draw the Miscreant, draw an Evil Cable Rat, etc. Pretty major upgrade by holding on to the Witchy Lackey. Draw 2 cards.
Ding!
This is just a shutdown. Is Kolento stuck a minion to the board? He got 1 attack with Edwin.
Yeah. His Miscreant stuck to the board that he didn't get lackeys from until the point that he picked it back up again.
We're entering get a Dr. Boom or bust territory.
And even then, you're playing from behind against the deck that's specifically engineered to take advantage of Dr. Boom Mad Genius with a deck that isn't.
No deadly poison in the deck, so Soul Thrays cannot represent 24.
You just get cooking and start swinging at face.
I mean, that would have been like the one way he could have won with the Soul
Yeah.
Thrays outcome. Is
Yeah,
it's like,
maybe.
oh wow, I have a deadly poison with this.
Yep.
So instead, it's the hard fight for board. It's pretty good.
It's really good. In a vacuum, that was an incredibly good turn
Why?
for Kolento.
It's crazy to me that that card isn't playable, given what I just saw from it. Like, how many game states evolve to, well, I need to blow up 3 things of middling size on my opponent's side of the board?
Well, when you call middling size, it sounds a lot better than it is. 3 minions with exactly 4 or less health.
It's overkill, right? So it has to have exactly less than.
Right, yeah, fair. Right. That starts to sound a little bit more difficult to achieve on a regular basis.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Like the option to forego the Dr. Boom here as well.
Yeah, I think if your opponent decided that his last turn was going to involve 8 points of blowback damage, then yeah, loading up an Elic and a Wrench Caliber Seems like a pretty good response to that.
You are forever never forgiven.
Admirable is so upset with me right now. If you know, then you know.
That's not my fault.
I kind of want him to just do the thing, so if I can see if the thing works how I expect it to.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
This better be the spiciest minion of all time.
It is not.
It's a moderate spice. I think Shadow Step becomes a pretty decent draw here.
1.5 chilies.
Not so spicy. Wait, 2 of these are in your deck. I lost. I don't know which one to take anymore.
Yeah. And the one that's not in your deck, like this is a weird exception because when you press Delivery Drone to discover a mech, you are in Dr. Boom form. Now, if you started the game in Dr. Boom form, you probably would put Security Rover in your deck. Right? Like that makes that decision kind of interesting in terms of the pick the one that started in your deck rule.
I want to sap this 1/1. I don't want it to hit my Zilliax and then pop it.
Uh-huh.
I want to force them to take damage to do it.
Uh-huh.
And a 1-mana 1/1 is not a good card, but right now it is annoyingly effective. But I guess I'll just dagger it. I wanted to sap it for style points.
I really want to see how far down the rabbit hole you were going to go on.
Wow, we push
sapping
up
a
damage too! He just got beat.
He did. Bye-bye 5/5.
He's got to be bluffing that as something else.
This would be a good time for a master play.
I mean, he has a Wrench Caliber and a Zap hero power. I think it's a very reasonable 50-50 brawl to just win the game on the spot. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to consider.
Yeah, you're just so far ahead. Just beat him up.
Yeah.
Dominant first game on SIlverName's side. If the Warriors got the checks, it is definitely Warrior favored.
If you find a lot of 1-drops in your first few turns, then yeah, they're going to have a hard time. If you can back that up with Snip Snap, then yeah, they're going to have a hard time.
That hand was good.
It was really good.
But you know what? That's a mark of good decks.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see SIlverName have that capacity on his side.
But reminder as well, he did beat a 10-10 Edwin that game.
Yeah.
Without just a clean answer to it.
Seriously, like this is something that I want to praise him for. Is he brought Mech Hunter and then Mech Hunter and then Mech Hunter and then Token Druid and Token Druid. Like those decks have very little super nut draw potential in them. Like all of their nut draw potential involves your opponent not checking the one thing that you do. Bomb Warrior just has good draws.
Yeah.
Its cards are good. Its cards are very efficient. If you're going to compete against the world's elite, you need good decks.
Yeah.
End of story.
And I often wonder, like, the viewers at home just watching us talk about how ineffective decks like Mech Hunter and Token Druid are, like how they react to that, because in the world of just playing casually on ladder, Mech Hunter and Token Druid are both pretty good decks, right? So
they're not ineffective.
Yeah, exactly. So it might seem strange to say that, but when you get to this level, they just do drop off as you first reach an increased level of play, but also secondly, because they're so linear in what they do, they're very easily counterable just with a 5-card addition to your deck, as you are allowed to do in Specialist. So they do kind of fall off a cliff, whereas flexible decks that can react to situations like Cyclone Mage or like Bomb Warrior, that have the ability to play reactive, play proactive, play aggressive, play control, play combo, all of these different options, those are the effective decks in Specialist right now, and that's why I'm loving seeing SIlverName finally get away from the pretty terrible decks that he's been playing up until this point and now be playing Bomb Warrior.
I will add the caveat of that I think in an open tournament field, stuff like Mech Hunter and Token Druid have more merit because you're playing against a wider field of people, and if you just caught people unprepared, you can get the big payoff.
That's fair.
So look at Master Vegas, hashtag Token Druid, hashtag Mech Hunter, hashtag lots of warriors. We're there. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be getting into game number 2 of Kolento taking on SIlverName. SIlverName up a game in this one, so Kolento has to answer 2 straight. Don't go anywhere. Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region, and we are amidst our 5th match of the day, but we got a bonus match for you that's coming up afterwards. I'm Matt's Admirable, and I'm joined by SIlverName here.
Hi.
On the on the desk. And SIlverName up a very decisive game number 1 over Kolento as his Bomb Warrior trounced the Rogue on Kolento's side. But we've got a bit of a mix-up with Kolento going over to his tertiary deck.
Yeah, he's got some tricks up his sleeve for the Warrior here. Not only that Coppertail Imposter package that we talked about, the ability to drop a stealth minion that cannot be cleared by anything, including Dinomatic by Warrior on curve. Follow that up with War Gears for big amounts of magnetic damage. But on top of that, he's been bringing something somewhat unique in these rogue sideboards that we've seen, and that is a Mojo Master Zihi, which can deny massive amounts of tempo from the opponent, but most crucially, stop those big Omega Devastator turns, which can be so crucial for Warriors in stabilizing in the late game.
This was showing up in some Bomb Warrior tertiaries and secondary lists with the main goal of... This was early on when people started to find out that Bomb Warrior mirror matches were largely about the tempo.
In Grandmasters?
Yes, in America's region mostly.
How did I miss that?
I know Eddie was doing it.
You're so right. Yeah, I remember now. Yep,
And Eddie would take the lead. You know, he's a very fast player in the America's Grandmaster region. He'll take his time when he needs to, but he played Bomb Warrior. He was like solo Bomb Warrior for a number of weeks. And when I saw the Mojo Master, I was like, oh, that is so cool. He's like, get ahead. As soon as I'm ahead, there's the Mojo Master, and you do not find the the Omega Devastator turn on the other side. It goes from Omega Devastator to Omega Devastate. It never becomes Omega Devastatist. There's a meme there somewhere.
Oh, there sure is. Coppertail Imposter, the only keep for Kolento. It makes sense. It's a card he has specifically added to his deck in order to play on curve against Warrior. Keep it so you are able to do that.
Ooh. I always like drawing that little fella.
It's kind of interesting now the way this curve can work in various iterations, because now you have Coppertail Imposter into potentially coin double Snip Snap as a curve if you want to go that way.
That's a good draw.
SIlverName, once again, this game has the opportunity to shut down Wagglepick. Last game, he had the Harrison Jones available the whole game, and even with Kolento playing around it, essentially blowing up his own Wagglepick to get a bounce that he wanted and play around the Harrison, SIlverName still got value out of that Harrison on a 2-charge dagger, but this time the weapons project is going to be able to come down.
Very nice of Kolento for to use the Wagglepick here too. I think this is very good recognition, and it opens my eyes a little bit to this Evil Cable Rat, which I initially had a question mark about. If SIlverName wants to answer the Wagglepick here, he has to use Weapons Project for it.
Right.
That puts the Evil Cable Rat back in hand, saves it for the Shark later on. Number 2, it takes him off Militia Commander, and it would take him off of Wrench Caliper as well.
Yep.
So SIlverName in a pretty threatened spot versus this Wagglepick, and now he's got to sit up and do some math and go, wow, didn't expect that.
Yeah, and he also secured much better curve options with coining out 4 here, because he now has coin into 4 with the Wagglepick into the Coppertail Imposter on 4, and now with the Ziliax draw, that gives him more options of playing out the curve that way around as well, which leans him towards making the coin play now as well.
Also stripped away the Harrison Jones possibility.
Yep. A lot of good things, even in just a small play like coining out a Wagglepick. Plenty to talk about.
I don't want to give him an Evil Cable Rat back. Now that is the one detriment to this play, though. So if SIlverName just kills the Evil Cable Rat, what do you do with the Wagglepick?
Yeah, you're certainly a little bit scared of just dropping your Coppertail Imposter and leaving your Wagglepick there.
I mean, SIlverName would end up responding with, you know, in this instance of weapon destruction, you have a 2-cost Coppertail Imposter in your hand. I'm interested. Maybe you just swing with the Wagglepick.
Swing first, then play the minion? Is that a legal play with Wagglepick?
Well, it's not illegal. No one's gonna. It's not like the cops show up and they're like, "This is the Hearthstone police." I do kind of like the idea of Coppertail Imposter Go, where if SIlverName fails to kill it, you go to attack with the Coppertail Imposter and then put it back into your hand and re-stealth it.
That's not bad, yeah.
That's like a one-eyed cheat. Remember that guy?
Yeah. Whoa.
Yes!
Whoa! Galaxy Brain Kolento. That's so crazy, right? That like we're staring at the hands. Like we have so much extra context, but Kolento, based on the fact that he played a Waggle pick last turn and it didn't get destroyed, an average player would take that read to mean there's no weapon destruction in hand, because if I play Waggle pick, they will play their weapon destruction. Kolento adds the additional context of, well, now he has Harrison Jones available, and also, looking at the board state I presented last turn, maybe he wouldn't have even bothered playing Weapons Project to destroy that Waggle pick anyway, and still continues to play around that weapon removal. That's pretty cool.
Just a solid play.
Yep. We've seen a lot of that today, honestly.
Yeah. That's something that I love to see, and it's so hard to be able to, I think, contextualize it a lot of times, because oftentimes it's minuscule, or oftentimes it even looks kind of weird. Like that Waggle pick attack looks kind of weird, but just all made sense.
Yeah.
You eviscerate the minion, you eviscerate the face. Pretty good 4-mana card.
Generally, if you're looking at a way a turn or sequence of turns or game has panned out and you're just thinking, this is really weird to me, there are two possibilities. Either that play was extremely bad or extremely good. It generally operates in one of those two wheelhouses.
Wow, this was a really weird recognition from SIlverName, where if Ziliax is the minion that gets attached to this, you get to whack the shield off and then Weapons Project Shield Slam. Well, you get to do that anyway.
You get to do that if it has 6 health.
So is this, that's for the snip step then? Excuse me. I don't know why I said Ziliax. I think I meant for the snip step. What did you, wait a minute.
What are you talking about right now?
Hang on a second. So 4 health, 6 health Ziliax Divine Shield. You have to clear the Divine Shield out, and then you have to do the thing with the Weapons Project. So wait, what does this play around? Why did he do this?
It gives him the ability to just hit it with the Wrench Caliber next turn in the world where things don't get magnetic onto it and still play Dynomatic.
Unity. Precision.
I'm not convinced. I take it back. For whatever reason, I thought this let you do the Ziliax thing. I guess if you top deck Shield Block, it lets you preserve the Weapons Project. The Dynomatic is clearly, I think, what he was thinking about, was whack it with the Weapons Project, and then play the Dynomatic to clear out whatever he compounds the issue with.
Yep. I think that's where his head was at. I don't know, though. We might be overlooking something.
I don't know. I think it's clear it's where his head was at. Which I still think is pretty wise. Just, that's a big cost to pay for that card.
Yeah. Yeah, Warpath is real good against Rogue.
Having seen a Warpath used, I'm curious when this Snip Snap is going to end up getting used. The evil Cable Rat's really what changed this turn. I think without evil Cable Rat, this is about as straightforward as it gets.
Separate overstacked. You like that?
Yep. Seven equals 7.
5 equals 5.
Yep. The full Monty. Somewhat important to note that the Death Rattle from the Snip Snaps came down first, so it will activate first. Should all the minions die simultaneously, the Boombots have a chance to hit those 1/1s it spawns.
Yep. Kolento interested in getting his Spirit of the Shark down this turn, which sets him up for double Togwaggle possibilities on the following turn.
I don't know if I want to play it into a bunch of Boombots.
Yeah, that definitely does seem slightly frightening. And there's also, I don't think Kolento is able to just go Spirit of the Shark this turn and then have a Togwaggle turn next turn, because there is a 7/7 on the board that is going to be trucking away during those 2 turns where he doesn't really activate any removal.
Yeah, you've kind of unbecome the aggressor here.
Yeah.
With this situation, and so I think that he has to start fighting for that so much more aggressively.
This is great. All he needed was one of the two lackeys, the rush lackey or the damage lackey, and then he was able to take care of the 7/7. This does now give him the opportunity to do something a lot more proactive on the next turn, which doesn't worry too much about reacting to what his opponent's board is doing.
Remember the chess tavern brawl?
Yes.
It feels like it's kind of what's about to happen. The boombots just kind of hit the things that are directly across. Unless you're just going to attack and brawl, which I really always love this when I have boombots in play. Like, you just turn brawl into a weird burn damage spell.
Yeah, I was about to suggest it. And that is a boombot coming out. It is indeed.
I think it's just below average.
9, yep, ever so slightly below average. 10 would have been average in that spot.
Another shard picked up. Stealth rogue. Actually thematic.
Yeah, now that you mention it. I never really thought about it, but yeah.
That's it, I'm putting tigers and panthers in here too.
All right, sign me up. What was the minion that paid off your stealth minions? It was like +2/+2 to all your stealth minions or something?
Oh, I remember that card. I don't remember the name of it. It was
Or 2 stealth minions?
yeah, I was like,
to
wait a
all
minute.
of your stealth minions? No. let me wind that one back just a little bit.
Interesting that he wasn't interested in the Shark Coppertail into Togwaggle on the following turn. Dynamatic would be the reason why.
Choose
Yeah.
suit.
Okay.
Wow, Kolento actually feels like he has a genuine decision to make here on the treasure. Took his time on it.
It's always painful to not take Wondrous Wand.
Yep, absolutely agree.
But I definitely think that the big legendaries is where he needs to be right now.
You say big legendaries.
Well, that's the hope anyway.
Yeah.
That doesn't always happen, but I think that's where his hand is leading him right now. You know, he's made some headway on life total, but he's gotten much more made on his. If you draw cards, you're drawing bombs. You need something colossal to happen.
Yep.
What now?
Defend the gates!
There is a tad of worry here for SIlverName.
I was kind of interested in the Dynamatic that turn. If he wanted to trade the Boombot, then the Dynamatic had a very, very good chance of clearing the board as long as the Boombot then hit a minion. But on reflection, I think, yeah, turning his Ziliax into reliable damage on perhaps the last possible turn he gets to do that, I think that makes a lot of sense with the amount of bombs that he has stacked up in the deck.
Yep. Also, the Boombot. Ooh.
Yeah, those are big legendaries.
So think about that Brawl that was used. SIlverName has one copy of Brawl, by the way, so this is now a major issue. It's pretty rare that the Deathwing happens, as rogue discoveries on legendaries are much more prime. However, Kolento's at 7. The Boombot Death Rattle does have lifesteal, so you have a little bit of extra life to work with, but this is likely a one turn that you get for the setup here. And so for Kolento, if the Boombot hit your face for 4 and you got attacked for 2, you are still alive at 1, so you need to fade a bomb draw. But other than that, you are pretty set up to win the game from this position. This is crazy.
Yeah, the relevant number here is that Boombot hitting face for 2 or more, potentially.
And it
Which
is
it
not.
does not. So now there is 24, 28, 33 represented on board.
6 more from hand with Waggle Pick Deadly Poison.
Weapons Project available for SIlverName, though, to plug that 2 damage gap that he needs. I think we're rolling him, Admirable.
I don't think I'm playing Weapons Project. Holy smokes.
Yup, throw the bombs in.
and go ahead.
He's still considering it. 37, it would take himself to, what would it be at, 43?
Yep. He's just out of reach.
And 24, 28, 33, 34. So you actually play around some damage ranges by dropping this weapons project, but obviously, like...
There's the inverse implication as well.
Yeah, by adding 6 armor to your opponent, even then with the 2 attack, you only put them down to 11 and not 10, which is where you would want to put them to.
So his thinking is, I get to attack twice, which means Kolento gets, if he draws 2 bombs and I live through this as a play around, I get to kill my opponent anyway. So that's actually wise.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, no. Ah!
He says, I get an additional turn, and that means more bombs drawn on average. And
Yeah.
over the additional turn that I get, I cancel out that armor total anyway in terms of how the breakpoints of 5 damage work. I think that makes sense.
So many options.
So Kolento's got to deal 6 damage from this. So the Evil Miscreant would need to pick up Kobold and Goblin, or Goblin, 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 or Kobold, Kobold. That's with the Spirit of the Shark, mind you.
Right, I was going to say, like, where are we getting all this mana from? I got very lost in your maths there for a second. Because now he has 12, 24, 28, 33, 37, 39, 41.
He's got a trade.
Yep.
Double time and double pay. Double time and double pay.
All right,
Go.
buckle up. Sure. Why not?
I really just wanted him to take the worst options possible off of every single one as well.
Production, if we could get a look of what it's in his deck right now, because that's super
Super relevant
do not
information.
do that.
Kolento does not draw the bomb, and that means a tied series. The take of the crown makes him king of that game. Deathwing was the best one to get.
Yes.
What was better?
Archmage Vargoth into it, casting again and picking Deathwings.
But that's a random one.
Yeah.
I actually think I'd much rather have Deathwing than to have Archmage Vargoth.
Yeah, I think offered 2 Deathwings versus 2 Archmage Vargoths, I would have taken the Deathwings.
What if you were super desperate, though?
I mean, sometimes, yeah, Vargoth is just the out that you have to look for, but yeah, that is what it is. But game number 3, both players will remain on the decks that they've chosen so far. So that is the Tertiary for Kolento, which we didn't really see too much of it come into play. We saw the Coppertail Imposters, but Wargear, Can, and Mojo Master Zihi did not show up. And for SIlverName's side, he just really doesn't have anything else to go to remedy this situation.
So now I'm just curious about that Warpath. Because if he had the Warpath on the turn with the Boombots instead of the Brawl, what that means is he gets to use the Warpath to simulate the effect.
Both using the Warpath, which was very unusual in the situation that he used it, whether we agree with it or not, you can definitely call it unusual. But then also just the Brawl that he used in the situation that he did. He brawled a bunch of his opponents 1/1s, essentially just pushing for damage. Like, even if you accept the Warpath being used and move forward into the world that you are, you can still then ask a question about that Brawl being used as well.
See, I think the Brawl is right. I think
once we get to that point, you think the Brawl is right.
Exactly. I think that when you have that much damage secured with Boombots and you're clearing out an annoying board for your opponent, that's what the Boombots are there for, is to deal damage. Like, they're not supposed to be an answer to the board. You're not fighting for board tension. You're just trying to burn the opponent's face. Right. The Warpath, however, is what begets the Brawl. If he has the Warpath on that turn instead, he Warpaths instead of brawling, and that keeps a Brawl for that future turn.
So let me reframe that Brawl question into a different context for you as we very shortly get into game number 3. On average, those Boombots, when they die, deal 10 damage, right? Oh no, actually a Boombot survives. So if all 5 Boombots died, they would deal, on average, 12.5 damage to the opponent's face.
And then, half of that goes to a minion, but yeah. Or half of 2.5 goes to a minion, yeah. 11.25, blah, 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 blah.
Let's call it 11. On average, Is Brawl better or worse in the Rogue matchup than 11 damage to your opponent?
I think once you've reached that game state, it's probably worse.
Okay.
Because he was in a massive lead. Like, he tanked a shot from 2 Death Wings and still had a chance to win the game.
Yeah,
like,
he did.
He was massively far ahead.
Yeah.
And so I think he's right to use the Brawl. I mean, I think that when you talk to players who play a lot of Bomb Warrior, that's a fairly standard play. And I think that, you know, just with the 1 copy in the deck, that's what we landed on. The very non-standard thing was the Warpath for 1.
I agree. I think the Warpath is definitely the thing that would need to be looked at harder. But anyway, moving forward, game number 3. 1 drops are plenty again for SIlverName. Kolento does have just about the best possible answer to this scenario, which is to dagger down one of them over a couple of turns and then rock out with the backstab miscreant in response to the second.
Yeah.
So he has neutralized the push from SIlverName much quicker than he did in the last game that SIlverName won.
Yeah, I mean, SIlverName's lacking the bomb damage right now that's going to be shuffled in. So he does have to play less aggressive in terms of his overall game plan, at least for the time being. And so for Kolento, I think that spells a world of wonder because we have that Vancouver Warrior-esque thing going on right now. You jam the Coppertail, you jam the War Gear, you hit him in the face for 9, and look at your hand afterwards. You already have Togwaggle, you have card generation, you have a Waggle pick for reach. Like,
So many
he's going to have a
options.
very aggressive game plan.
Right. We heard this in an interview, I believe, with Orange yesterday, where he said, when you play Coppertail Imposter, their response is play mechs. And that is, again, what we're seeing here. And in this scenario, Orange was very much recommending that you trade in this scenario because of the implications of Ziliax. Now, that is, of course, hand-dependent. If you have a hand that says, if my opponent Ziliaxes, I don't care, then you are at much better liberty to go face in scenarios like this.
He was also facing down Omega Devastator as the 4/5.
Yes.
And the size of that minion was pretty overshadowing, I think, in comparison to what the Ziliax represents here. You know, it's just 2 less health of a minion.
Yep.
I think Kolento's hand's a lot better than Orange's was on the last one as well. However, they both had strong hands in that situation. But it is interesting to see the difference on that, where Orange sweated over that turn for a very long time and then landed on the trade.
Kolento, the player who, in various interviews that we have with him for Hearthstone Grandmasters, has defended his reputation as an over-trader and saying he just trades when it's the right play, and when it's the right play, he goes face. Seems somewhat to justify that claim by just immediately snapping and going face. Speaking of going face, how do you feel about Ziliax and go face here?
I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, do I really need to bring it up at this point? I mean, let's be honest. I was going to tell a story about Kolento and just over the years how I noticed that when you progressed from 2014 onward, his play tended to get more aggressive overall. And he has reached this point where there is this middle ground now where I do agree that what he said in that interview is pretty darn close to true. He pretty much just makes the decision whichever one he thinks is right in that scenario, and I don't necessarily think that he has a tendency. It's so hard for me to define it.
Sorry, as those attacks went face, there was just a little narrowing of the eyes from Kolento. Like, you dare? But this is why I brought up the play. This is why I wanted to talk about it. This is why I kind of liked it. Like, what is the clean response to this scenario that SIlverName creates by Ziliax go face?
Bomb Warrior is an aggro deck. Changed my mind.
Because now, even in this scenario where the trade happens, SIlverName has the fallback of Shield Slam to be able to take care of this 9/5 if he sees so fit.
You kind of want to do everything this turn, and you can't.
Yeah, that's just why we have mana in the game.
I have mana in the game because it's bad to bad mana. Or have a lack of mana.
Defend the gates!
Hey, how does it feel?
Go. For me, one time. Say the 2 words back to back. I want to hear the difference in how you say it.
Mana?
Yeah.
Manner.
Okay. All right, I hear it.
Okay. was a long time coming. It took someone to call you out for this to actually happen. I'm very satisfied.
It's just my accent. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not going to change it.
You shouldn't be ashamed of it. I think it's kind of interesting and cool. Lore Walker Cho is kind of interesting and cool. When you pick up a wondrous treasure thing from it, Lore Walker Cho looks a lot less cool.
It sure does.
Funny note is the first time this happened, I immediately vendetted my own Lore Walker Cho, only to find out that the vendetta in my opponent's hand, who was not a rogue, the vendetta discounts itself.
Yes.
Because they have a card from
another class. And Vendetta knows it's a rogue card. Interesting.
Self-aware.
Yeah. Wow.
Notice the difference here also for Kolento. He's not under bomb pressure, and so he feels better taking the wand in this situation. I find that really cool because the last game, I think the bomb pressure was literally what was taking him off the wand.
Sorry, were you saying he wasn't under bomb pressure? Because SIlverName has something to say about that.
He
this
wasn't
No,
under bomb pressure.
you're right. Just say it. SIlverName
Past tense
is going to do everything that he can to change that very rapidly. And now this Wondrous Wand is a lot more spoopy for Kolento.
If you omit the S, that is correct.
Also, yes.
Ooh.
That's a card.
It's the Wondrous Wonderfall. You're getting a little low. Have you tried restoring health? Honestly, that Lore Walker Cho is what's muddying all of this up.
So many options.
I'm kind of looking down, though. I am seeing what Orange was talking about yesterday with the trade. Your opponent responds by playing mechs. Lanto just took a heap of damage this game.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's why I brought up the play immediately. It just seemed so good there. It's the same situation as, like, you know, you're playing, I don't know, a token druid or an aggro shaman or whatever other deck, like, goes wide on the board style of aggro deck.
And then you wait, and then suddenly...
And then your opponent just plays one big minion in response to that. Like, what do? You ignore it and you go fade, and you let them figure it out.
Just punching him back. Oh, I thought that... Okay, I thought that initial minion just straight up went face. I thought the burglar straight up went face. The way the arrows are pointing, it really looked like that. SIlverName, it's worth mentioning, is much more free to ship a shield slam over to Kolento's hand.
Sure is.
That Dr. Boom was a huge draw. Extra health, blow up the thing. By the way, my hero power is fighting this weird Cho objective that I'm not going to touch.
Yeah. By the way, 7 armor activates my shield slam, which I don't care about giving to you through your Lore Walker Cho, while all the spells you feed me in response are just fantastic. Like, go ahead, give me that shield slam back. You won't.
You already gave him the Feral Spirit.
I wonder.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, Feral Spirit, at least, like, if SIlverName cast a Feral Spirit there in response, then Kolento gets another Feral Spirit back, and the chain just continues. Like, this Shield Slam is just strictly net positive for SIlverName.
Just a sip.
This is one of the weirdest games I've seen in a very long time.
Okay, remember when you said that like a couple of hours ago and I said, remember the Hearthstone World Championship? Do you remember the game we had just a couple of hours ago?
I said one of.
Okay.
Not the.
Okay.
It was one of.
Okay.
It was just, how often does this happen in a rogue versus warrior matchup? It's just all the rogues. All the rogues are making the wacky situations.
Light the fuses!
That did not go well.
Worth noting, the Harvest Golem drop will have Rush as well, so the Mojo Master Ziki can get checked here. Is he interested in checking other things? My instinct was the 3-4 over 2-1, and then 2 Harvest Golems over.
was gonna say, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want the Cho dead, which would have been the potential way of trading their 2-1 into 3-1. Because yeah, if he was killing the Zihi, the Dynomatic would have gone into the Taunt to preserve that still being alive, and then both halves of the Harvest Golem would have gone into the Zihi.
Yeah, I think that this Feral Spirit in SIlverName's hand is basically stuck here. However, his hand is comprised a lot of spells. So Kolento has shown no willingness to trade over minions unless he has to. So from SIlverName's perspective, perhaps Kolento goes face to situation. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
this just seemed worse.
I am curious about there still being a 5-4 on the board.
Have your Vendetta. Take 5. Are you gonna give it back?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a trade you want to be making.
But it is still an answer to a 5-4 that he might not have even had in hand that turn. Right?
Yeah, I think for Kolento right now with the double Waggle Pick and with the Wonder Swan, he's looking to just turn his cards into burn and end the game before shipping those over matters.
Okay.
SIlverName with the Weapons Project will activate the Shield Slam on the other side.
Oh, jeez, yeah, you're so right. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, that's how the Cho has Cho very rarely, I think, actually shapes landscapes, and it's usually just like, oh crap, I got a 0-4.
Right.
It is weirdly shaping this game.
Right.
I also really have to give my hats off to Kolento in this game. This is about the most aggressive I've seen him be in situations where a lot of his trades look like they're pretty good. And instead, he has been trading life total, and you look down and SIlverName is on a very dangerous spot.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
No Harrison Jones this time? Nope, just gonna take the armor. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not passing the last shield here. I think there's a lot of incentive for going wide in this position for Kolento as well.
Yeah, another of the interesting Lorewalker Cho interactions in this matchup that we are yet to run into but might very soon is that Warpath can actually be used to effectively mill cards from your opponent when Lorewalker Cho is in play.
Yep. Quite a rare scenario, but I also think that SIlverName not necessarily interested in just handing Kolento a bunch of Warpaths, but not disinterested in it.
Yeah, I'd rather my rogue opponent had a bunch of Warpaths in their hand than a lot of other things.
Just kind of thinking about how this game has been rolling out. And SIlverName, you know, having been as aggressive as he's been, the Warpass will buy Kolento time. I'm just not sure time is really what he's looking for. The more important thing is that he'd be killing off the Lorewalker Cho, and I really don't want to do that still.
Sure, but he would also be killing off a Spirit of the Shark and reducing the damage on board by 6. And I'm interested in doing those things. And buying time does not work in your favor when your deck is slowly getting filled up with bombs. That works in your opponent's favor.
Okay, then.
You're making too much sense.
So I did wonder about the Harrison last turn. Now, I will agree there are very few things that will get me to pass up a Blast Shield. Or a Delivery Drone, for that matter. Drawing 3 cards might be one of them.
So do you take 3 damage, or do you want to say?
I love that fuse thing.
I mean, you wanted to draw bombs, right?
Yep.
Job done.
All right, Cho, that was a good story, but glad it's over.
Yep. So for those of you just joining us, this is a perfectly normal game of Hearthstone. Nothing to see here. There is just a rogue with a Shield Slam and 3 copies of Warpath in their hand. And a warrior with Feral Spirit. Everything seems fine.
Yeah. I'm not going to explain how we got to this point.
Work it out.
So many options.
But yeah, holding on to that Harrison. A nod from SIlverName as well actually seems to confirm what I was going to say, is that maybe he was happy to be down a few cards from his Harrison Jones combination in order to make sure he had the second Waggle pick checked if it was to come out from Kolento. And having seen the Waggle pick, SIlverName gave a nod, which seems to confirm that is where his head was at indeed. Kolento just desperately trying to build board here, but just microbots themselves take care of a good chunk of this board state. And this is the last turn that Kolento has to try and capitalize on this Mojo Master Zihi advantage that he's had for the last couple of turns.
It's going down to 1 if SIlverName wants him to.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
One of these minions goes bye-bye. SIlverName could potentially even choose just to load up Feral Spirits here instead of using the microbots, depending on what disappears. The Shark.
That's not one you want him to have in hand.
No, it's not one that you want him to have already invested on board, though. It at least costs him 2 now. It costs him 0 if it didn't get bounced back.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Wow, he's really trying to dig into the relevance of this Omega assembly. Card draw super dangerous for Kolento's side.
SIlverName now back to 20 with a Blast Shield showing as well. Omega Assembly will give him defensive options because he's in Mad Genius form, and all mechs become defensive options at that point. He has Feral Spirit to stretch the game time out a little bit as well.
I just don't think Kolento has an option.
And all Kolento has to do is find a bomb. And he is going to be defeated in this series. But you're quite right. Kolento has no choice. He just has to push.
I mean, he could have Weapons Project there first to deny the bomb thing too, but I just think he really needs development that bad. Like, the Weapons Project values, like, it diminishes immediately the turn after. SIlverName's under some pressure, though. I mean, I don't think this is necessarily comfortable for him. I don't think he's uncomfortable.
Whoa! Wrench Caliber off the top. Never mind leaving it up to the bomb lottery. He just peels the damage. Bomb shuffles in the deck for BM anyway, but SIlverName picking up a huge win over the K-God. Kolento drops down to an 8-4 record. Kolento finds the inverse. SIlverName finds the inverse of that.
And this was like the win that I've been looking for SIlverName for pretty much the entire time. Like, he's gotten some wins under his belt, but this was a big win versus a big opponent with just a solid deck.
Yep.
I think if he'd been bringing solid decks this whole time, we'd probably see him with a better record right now.
Yep, and I think, honestly, pretty solid play as well. There's that one Warpath turn that we still don't maybe quite understand or otherwise think is strange. But apart from that, I think he executed a game plan very, very well. I agree with a lot of the plays that he made.
It doesn't look fancy in that game that he's just pushing the aggression almost the entire time. But honestly, it's tough to, like, bite the bullet and do that as Bomb Warrior, where you're just going, you know what? I can kill these things. It's an advantage to kill them, but I'm just going to push the damage. It yields a bigger advantage a lot of the times, and I think being able to recognize that is a key to playing Bomb Warrior well.
Yeah, I think Ziliak's go face was a hard call to make. I think his Warpath timing was a hard call to make. I think the brawl that he made in the game that he ended up losing with the Boombots, I think that's a hard call to make if I'm trusting you that it was correct in that scenario, which I'm kind of on board with. So I think there were a lot of tough spots that SIlverName found himself in that he found the correct way to navigate out.
Indeed. And a few extra bucks in his pocket.
Yep.
For that win. Let's take a look at the standings and see how things are shaping up. That match definitely means more for Kolento in terms of standings, as if things went disastrously, he might be at a bit of a risk. However, you know, still in a very, very solid score here with the 8-4. Fino standing alone at the top, and SIlverName notching one above that, moving Tice down to last place in the division as we're coming up to the conclusion of our week. That is not what I expected.
Yeah, I had not even taken note of that, but that is a very real story now, something that needs to take a look at, whereas, you know, we're in a situation where if this was Season 2 and relegation were in play, that the two-time European champion, one of the most popular players in the world of Hearthstone and one of the winningest players in the world of Hearthstone, would find himself sat in a relegation spot.
That's what happens when you bring Chef Priest.
Jeez.
Die.
Tell them how you really feel.
Well, that's how I really feel.
Oh, well then, working as intended.
Yeah, it's just, you know, kind of a weak deck, I think.